Welcome to Wednesday nights at Song. We are so pleased that you're here with us in the sanctuary and also connecting with us via the screen. Let us begin with prayer. Infinite presence, we choose to open ourselves up to the timeless unfolding of our lives with you. Your sacredness is always present. We're so easily aware of the sacred in the peaceful face of a sleeping infant. We're often aware of the sacred when walking in the park among a cathedral of trees. And now we open ourselves to the awareness that the sacred is sometimes hidden in those things that are seemingly unholy. Let us feel our gratitude for the oneness, the true nature, the sacred in all parts of our lives. And so it is. Amen.
So as we sing this awareness of sacred love present everywhere, we feel it resonating in our beings. You are sacred love.
You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are.
Let's sing it again.
You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are.
Show the way.
Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are blessed peace. Blessed peace is all that you are. You are blessed peace. Blessed peace is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are deepest joy. Deepest joy is all that you are. You are deepest joy. Deepest joy is all that you are. Show the way, God, show the way. I want to live in such a state of grace. Lead the way, God, lead the way. I want to live in such a holy place. Such a holy place. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. You are sacred love. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are. Sacred love is all that you are.
As we sing this next chant, let us recognize the blessing that we are, the blessing that each person present, each person on the live stream is, the blessing we all are to the world.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth. And who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands, we are the heart, we are the hands, we are the I am the heart, I am the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands, we are the heart, we are the voice of spirit on earth. And who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world. You are a blessing to the world.
We move now into our time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable seated posture where you feel that you are alert and also relaxed. Allow your eyes to close and shift your attention to the natural rhythm of the breath, flowing in and out. Breathing in fresh, renewing air, releasing old, stagnant energy. Letting yourself become quiet, centered, and present. Feel how your breathing moves gently in, gently out. Notice how you can feel the movement of your breath throughout your entire body. Expanding your awareness to your whole body as you focus on your breathing. As you feel yourself opening, opening, opening. Coming into rest. Rest from the day. Willing to open to a time of reflection as you consider your spiritual life and the sacred in your life. Call to mind how and where a sense of the sacred most clearly shows up for you in your life. What activities bring the sacred most alive in you? Meditation, prayer, music, walks in nature. What places do you experience to be the most sacred? What people, situations most awaken this sense in you? Feel what it's like for you to live in this spirit. Of your awareness being saturated by the presence of the sacred. I invite you now to shift your reflection towards the opposite experiences. What areas of your life do you hold as the least sacred? Where do you sense that there are compartments that your spirit or heart have not yet awakened? Are there dimensions of your life with little mindfulness, little compassion, areas where you tend to forget the sacred? Are there aspects of your body that you've compartmentalized? Of your life as a man or a woman? Of any aspect of your feelings and mind? Consider activities involved in your work, business, money, politics, or community. Are there areas in your family life or particular people, family members, colleagues, acquaintances, where in your interactions you lose a sense of the sacred? Consider any particular activities or places, your creative life, your artistic life, your love life, shopping, driving, being in cities, hospitals, or schools. Any place or dimension that you have excluded from the sacred. Let each compartment that you've excluded from your spiritual life arise into your vision, one by one. As you get a sense of each area, hold it lightly in your heart and consider what it would mean to bring this too into your spiritual practice. Envision how your sense of the sacred could expand to include this in your practice with your full attention and compassion, honoring these people, these places, and these activities. One by one, picture them. Feel the respect and wholeness that would come about were you to include them in your practice and honor them as part of the wholeness, of the oneness. Get a sense of how each has a lesson, a gift to bring you. How each area brings a deepening of your attention, your compassion, until nothing that has arisen in your vision has been excluded. One by one, sense how your spirit and loving respect can re-inhabit every dimension of your being. When you have done so, when you have sensed, including all that you have put outside of the spectrum of your awareness of the sacred, then let yourself rest. Feeling your breath. And feeling your wholeness in this moment. As you live in this respectful attention and compassion, moment by moment, you sense, you feel into the presence of the sacred that is present in every part of your life. And so we feel gratitude for this time of reflection, for this opportunity to open our hearts wider, to let go where we have been withholding, and to incorporate all into our practice as we see the presence of the divine in all life, in all experiences. Taking a deep breath. When you're ready, gently shifting your attention to this time and this space. And so it is.
Might you also be feeling the blessing of this soulful meditation. We trust that you shared the joy of this lesson within the framework of a meditation. I'm so grateful that all that is prepared for us here at Unity of Houston is always a path on the way to more awareness and a closer experience of the sacred. So with that, let us take the opportunity now to support this spiritual community of Houston through the offering baskets as you leave, through your automatic giving perhaps, or through the text to give number that will be coming up on the screen. Together, let us bless our offering. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. And so it is.
It is. Amen.
I am a child of this universe. The ocean dances at my feet. The wind plays a melody through my hair. I am loved at every turn. I am kissed by Mother Earth. I am a child of this universe. The sun warms me in its embrace. The stars have aligned for me in the sky. I am honored by all life. I am held by Father Time. Every blade of grass, every shaking leaf on a tree, every mountain top sings of the glory of God moving through me. I am a child of this universe. Through my breath, all of life can breathe. I plant the seeds with my every dream. I am loved at every turn. Give a kiss to Mother Earth. Yes, I am a child of this universe. I greet the God in each face. I am a channel for peace to flow. Oh, I honor all of life. Yes, I'm one with Father Time. To every blade of grass, to every shaking leaf on a tree, to every mountain top sings of the glory of God moving through all, moving as me. Moving as you, moving as all, moving, moving, moving. Thank you so much. So good to see you all here. It's so good to have Reverend Mindy here. We're so blessed to have you here. Thank you so much, David. And we're blessing Reverend Karen on her vacation. She'll be back next Wednesday. So I wanted to share that song with you all because, of course, you're a child of this universe. And knowing that you're one with the sky, with the earth, with the trees, with the grass, knowing there's no boundaries to you and the sacred in life, in nature. It's easy to experience this as we look out into nature when we're experiencing this oneness. Often where we get hung up, where we hit a snag, is when we start looking at certain, perhaps difficult situations, people, conditions in our lives where we compartmentalize those as not sacred or wrong or bad, hurtful, outside of that. And so tonight we're going to explore widening our circle, opening our hearts even more, including those situations in a way that we can find a way to honor, to open our hearts more, to feel more compassion, and to see what gift there was, what lesson there was in and through that situation for us, allowing us to experience greater wholeness in and through that process of opening to all. Our lives are all divided, aren't they? We have our spiritual life through our spiritual practice, through coming to church. We have our work life. We have vacation, recreation. And society also compartmentalizes our lives, our experiences. We separate the sacred to church, the secular in commerce. And we see this in how there are businesses that are profit-making, that they're focusing on their business interests, and they seem to be divorced from the way that they are using the resources of the earth and the environment on which they depend, and not recognizing the sacred and the oneness there in the harmony of the two. Right? We have such a strong habit in and through the way that we've been socialized to divide up life. So it's no wonder that we experience separation everywhere that we look. There's a statement of ancient wisdom, as within, so without. This is a wisdom that's been with us for eons, right? So it's not just what we're seeing outside of ourselves. We understand that what we're seeing, the separation we're seeing, is a reflection, a mirroring back of how we also compartmentalize our innermost life. In spiritual practice, we can continue this pattern of fragmentation. So this is a continuation of the work that we've been studying in A Path with Heart, Jack Kornfield's book. We're on chapter 13 tonight. So he's focusing here on recognizing where in our inner life we have compartmentalized. So we may see certain prayers, certain meditations, spiritual practices as what we consider sacred, spiritual, and then the rest of us is left out. So what about, the person that goes out to the bar for a drink, or the person who, goes and hangs out with your family, or whatever, how we show up in different parts of our lives. We go, well, maybe that's not the sacred part of me. This is the sacred part that shows up to do the spiritual practice, and then I have kind of these other experiences that I may see as other and not incorporate them into awareness of all of me as that sacred life. So I want to illustrate this to you by a story that Jack Kornfield shares about a Buddhist teacher that he knew that was in Thailand. He met in Thailand when he was there, when he was practicing as a monk.
And this man was a 44-year-old Burmese monk, and his story demonstrates the power of compartmentalizing our spiritual life and how it can take over our choices. This man was involved in the pro-democracy upheavals and demonstrations that were happening in Rangoon at that time. And after years of difficulty, he fled for his life. And he fled into Burma and Thailand, and he was serving as a monk in the border refugee camps there. And he was teaching the Dharma to these people who were often starving. They were often sick from diseases tropical diseases where they were not receiving the medical treatments and medications that they needed. And yet, he was a beacon of light for these people. He stayed steadfast in his faith and his ability to lead them as a spiritual teacher. He taught the Dharma, and he taught them to live with compassion, to support justice, and to face these tremendous hardships that these people were facing. And during this time where he was serving at these border refugee camps, he met this young Thai woman. She was in her 20s. And first she came to him as a student, and she came to support him. She brought him offerings and food, as monks, received food as offerings. And over time, they gradually fell in love. He fell in love with this young woman. He was a monk. And even though he was just not trying to do that, he was just being a good teacher to her, available to her, and his passion came forward. They both developed a love for each other. And the next that Jack heard about this monk, a few months later, the monk decided that he was going to immolate himself. So he was going to burn himself on the steps of the Burmese embassy in Bangkok as a protest to the great injustices that were happening in these border camps that he was working in throughout his country. And so when Jack found out about this, because this is his friend, he did not want to lose his friend, and he certainly didn't want to lose him to burning himself in a fire, burning himself in protest. He went to talk to him. What's up? What's up with this? This is pretty extreme. And so he found out that the real reason that this monk was doing this, why do you think? Because he's in love with the woman, the young woman, and he couldn't deal with his feelings. He'd been a monk since he was 14. And he didn't know what life would be like if he left his order and got married. And he didn't have any skills besides being a monk. And so since he didn't know what to do with it, he just decided he would die. And so Jack had a talk with him. He talked him through it, and he said, there is a way for you to continue to do your work and come to peace with these feelings that you are feeling, with the intensity of this passion that he was separating outside the sacred. He had compartmentalized it, and it had taken over his life to the point that he was going to kill himself. So this is a pretty intense of his shame. He didn't know what to do with it. So just recognizing that there was a shift here. So the monk decided not to do this act. That listening to Jack's coaching, he recommitted himself to his practice and his teaching, and he chose to focus on the practice of the heart, where he was able to incorporate his personal passion as well as his passion for teaching the Dharma to his students. And by doing that, what happened was that the woman was asked to leave for a cooling off period so that he could have space to do this. And it ended up that they ended their relationship. And he was able to continue as a teacher in a more holistic way. And it grew him in a way that nothing else could. So we want to recognize that when we compartmentalize something outside of the sacred, a situation, experience, a personal dynamic, that this can become a strong force. It can become a shadow force in our consciousness that is easy to find a spiritual reason. He had a spiritual reason, right, for doing this act where he was going to burn himself up, to come up with some spiritual reason to reinforce this separation that you experience within yourself. So notice how that might show up in you in another way. We can notice how this shows up in modern ecology when we see the way that we use the earth for our means in a way that is out of balance. And so the earth is responding, right? We use vast amounts of oil, vast amounts of pesticides, of fertilizers to maximize the yield, right? We want to have more energy, more cars, more travel, more food. When we cut down rainforests, when we do all this, we can come to understand that these elements that we are using and abusing are actually elements that create our bodies, that we have a relationship with these elements of the earth, that they are not outside of the sacred, right? I read an article recently from a magazine called Texas Journey, and the gentleman that was being interviewed, his name was William Wren, and he was talking about how in Texas, in our area of Texas, we are losing starry nights because it's not getting dark enough. It's just not dark enough. So all the stars that are there that we used to be able to see some 100, 150 years ago, we're not seeing them all anymore. Many people I hear about who like to go out to the hill country or out into western Texas just to be able to see the stars, so we're not able to see them here, and of course from light pollution. And some of that light pollution is coming from these oil rigs, is what he is focusing his social work on, changing the bright lighting on oil rigs so that we can have these darker skies. And he said that there are so many reasons why we need the darkness. We actually need the darkness for the order of nature, for predators to seek their prey, and just all of life needs actually some time in sacred darkness. So we can recognize too in our spiritual practice how we can embrace the darkness and where we're trying to exclude the darkness and be in light. What he shared, which I thought was really fascinating, was in 1889, Van Gogh painted the painting Starry Night. You know that painting with the stars and the swish, and he was in an asylum and he was looking out and he painted his expression of what he saw, and he was so inspired by these stars. And William Wren said that he went and researched this area of France where Van Gogh was when he painted that painting, and from space you see this bright glow of yellow light there. And so what he said was that most likely that painting wouldn't be painted today, because in that area of France, you wouldn't see all those stars. So he said for us to consider what we're losing by losing the experience of the darkness at night, where we can see the lush display of stars. It allows us to remember our interconnection with all life. Many of us come to spiritual practice because we've experienced trauma and pain in our lives, and spiritual practice can at first seem like a wonderful escape, a way to come into peace, to put aside those experiences, to experience the presence of God, to go on vision walks and just open our imaginations to other experiences within an expansive awareness. And as we attempt to escape the pain of the past, to escape the loneliness of what feels like an experience that maybe no one else can understand, are we really taking steps towards our freedom? Or are we strengthening the fear, the limitation, the aversion, by compartmentalizing, again, that experience as not part of the sacred. So if freedom is not found in the escape from all of that, from the pain, the trauma, the troubles of the world, where is freedom found? What does Buddhism tell us about where freedom is found? Well, the Buddha told us that both human suffering and human enlightenment are found when we bring our attention to the body with its senses and mind. That sounds really simple, right? But how often do we go into spiritual practice and I'm focused on my breath and centered, I feel relaxed, and your mind, I want to work on some more complicated things than this. This is just, I got this breathing thing, and our minds want to go into something else, right? We get into the abstract rather than grounding in what is right here and right now, and then we lose the experience of the body. And it's in that present experience of the body that we awaken, that we find liberation. We've become very disconnected as a society from our bodies. We live very often in our minds. And we know we really only have now awakening to where we experience no boundaries. The sacred only ever happens in the now. And so the Buddha is teaching us, through this Dharma teaching, to use our awareness of the body to keep coming back to the breath, to the sensations of the body, to allowing feelings, emotions to be present without compartmentalizing them. Oh, well, I will deal with that later when I have time to grieve. I will deal with that later when I have time to whatever. And we think we're putting it aside, and it's operating in us unconsciously, right? So we know that this is not easy. This is not easy to just say, okay, now I'm going to not be divided, and I'm going to be just fully present and see the truth. So that's why we call it a practice, right? We keep coming back to it. Because if we don't, we unknowingly can slip into our early childhood patterns of strategy, of responding to life that worked for us. They were effective strategies, and we can say thank you. Thank you for getting me through that situation, for allowing me to figure out how I needed to respond to that situation to maybe survive or to get my needs met, right? To recognize that there were patterns that helped us through some dysfunction we may have experienced in our childhood. But if we continue to hide those patterns in our spiritual lives, they will continue to divide our life. So one of the means that I have used in my life to become more aware of that is through 12-step recovery in ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, which gave me the opportunity to speak about areas of my life. My parents are divorced, and so that was, of course, a traumatic experience for me. I moved to another state. My parents separated, and to have a place where there were others who understood what those dynamics are like and how you feel separated from a parent and all that, to have a safe place to speak those things, which as a child, I compartmentalized all that. I had to go to school and get good grades and all that, and I was focusing on that, and I wasn't really dealing with that because I didn't even know I had to deal with that because I was a kid. So as an adult, it's not like it goes away. It becomes unconscious until we decide that, okay, now it's time to do the work so that I can really know my wholeness and I can know the truth about who I am. So the key to healing these patterns is to see that spirituality is continually moving away from this compartmentalization and separation towards an embracing of all life. And yes, embracing that difficult family dynamic or that difficult person or situation, or that it could be when you were an adult. That's not to say that we only had trauma as children. We certainly have had enough traumatic experiences with Hurricane Harvey and different events that have happened here in Houston just in the last few years that we can see, where am I compartmentalizing that, and where can I find wholeness and forgiveness as I bring that into my awareness of the sacred. So rather than just try to rise above, which we call like spiritual bypassing, rise above these patterns and just feel like, oh, I'm the better person, it's something that we tell ourselves, right? We go into it, we go through it, and we bring those situations, those people, those conditions into our hearts, into our heart space. And so being willing to go into the dark, to go into the darkness within, those dark areas where we feel weakness, where we feel rage, where we feel disconnected, insecure about ourselves, not enough because of something that happened or something that we told ourselves about happened, where we are walling ourselves off, where we have segmented a part of ourselves within ourselves. And so when we see how these ideas about ourselves are limited or false, are not serving us anymore, and we can hold that in compassion and love, that is when our world expands and we awaken to seeing more of the God, of the sacred, of the divine that life is. So I invite you into embracing this process as part of your spiritual practice and knowing your wholeness and knowing for yourself that truly there are no boundaries to the sacred, yes, even in that situation in your life. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. So we'll move into our time of spiritual dialogue, and I'd love to hear what Mindy and David, what your reflections are of what you heard or anything that has come up for you in the service tonight.
Well, I began the experience of this opening and understanding through your beautiful meditation. And then I saw how that settled into this conversation. It's so easy for us to think, or for me, to speak for myself, it's like, oh, well, everything's going just well. Everything is fine now. Oh, I must be in the light or something. And what's really true is that life is a journey, and there's always the opportunity to be more aware, as well as to grow closer to the sacred by including what's happening. But often, it's so easy to see the light and not understand the reflection. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And when you were talking about the lights, right now the Audubon Society has asked us to turn off all our outside lights because this is the migratory time for many, many birds that are coming across the Gulf and other things. So they're asking us to do that through the end of May. So that was another light thing that I heard. The darkness there is the blessing for them.
Yes, for them to find their way. Definitely. I'll do that. I'm going to do that, Mindy.
So much of what you brought forward tonight about expanding our awareness of, well, this too is God. I've often considered that how big a circle of love can you draw? And where I notice myself kind of pulling away from a situation or a person, as for whatever reason, self-preservation or just somehow some indignation of some kind. If I can just take a breath and, I mean, it seems sort of obvious, but namaste, the light of God resides in you. And then when I see that light in you, and you see that light in me, then we are one. It's so beautiful, but to live it's a discipline. It's a choice, a renewing of choice over and over and over again.
Yes. And
it's trying to heighten the awareness, now that that we know now that, oh, there's something when I have a ooh or a almost like a with this situation.
Yes.
That there's something there for me to learn and discover. Something for me, like you said, David, to draw the circle around and to, I guess there's an acceptance of how things are or others are. I don't know what created what, and what I see sometimes is narcissism or other things that I see, but I don't know what great pain there was under that. So I want to drop my judgment and include it all and love, and that's go back to the experience of love, and that is where the sacred is.
Yes. And we can use those experiences to identify what is theirs and what is ours. So there's a technique that was created by Unity ministers Jane and Gary Simmons. They came and taught us this last year when they came for SE in the Field Week. It's called the Q process, the art and practice of living with nothing and no one against you. And what you do is you identify the triggering moment, something that just happened recently, and then you go back and you see, was there an event in my childhood that was like that? And identify that and the feelings there and what's unresolved there, and then you get to rewrite that the ending of that experience and use that to teach you about the experience that you're in now. So tending to the parts of ourselves that are younger, more tender, and bringing them into that experience of wholeness, because often that we're responding to the person in the moment, and also there may be things from our past that are triggered too, and so the emotional content could be a lot bigger than maybe, like you said, in the moment it really is. And when you step back, you can see, oh, I also brought some of my own stuff to that in exchange.
Well, Reverend Jeanmarie, I want to ask you a question. It's not so much intended to put you on the spot, because that's not my goal at all. But actually, I'm interested in hearing from either or both of you about this idea of creating boundaries on godliness, on what is divine. I was tracking everything you said tonight. I'm right there with you. But if I extrapolate and kind of allow my conceptual mind to go to town with that idea, then it erodes all sense of right and wrong. And in a certain place, that's accurate. There, it's all, it is good and bad based on our saying so. But the way we navigate through the world, we have to be discerning. We make decisions on a day-to-day basis in all of our human interactions, even those we love intimately. We are constantly delineating right choice and wrong choice. And yet if it's all God, then how can we make a wrong choice? I mean, I basically am painting it vividly just to create a riddle out of it.
I can give you let's both share, I think, on that. My approach, what I was taught by my metaphysics teacher, Paul Hasselbeck, he said, when we try to figure out the why, that's where we get stuck. But we can figure out the how, usually, in a situation. Today, I got an email that a package I've been waiting for was shipped. And I'm like, yay, God, because I'm so excited to get this thing. And it took me to FedEx page. And on the FedEx page, it said that we mourn the loss of these 8 people who were killed in this mass shooting in Indianapolis. And I'm like, where have I been? I didn't realize that there was a shooting at FedEx. One of so many shootings, right? Unfortunately, that seem to be happening in our country. And I go in, I'm reading the article about it, and I see the picture of this young man who did this, who shot many people, 8 that died, and then shot himself. And I was looking at his face, and I was like, can I love him? Can I love this boy? And what I felt was this anger, this rage, he didn't come up with this. This wasn't part of his true nature. This was taught. by his response to conditions in his life or his circumstances that created this response in him. I don't know what those were. I don't pretend to understand it, but I can have compassion in knowing that he was in a condition in his consciousness where he was in such a dark place that he couldn't get out of it. And I even understood that his mom tried to get help for him, and anyway, that I could have compassion for him, even though I saw everything. It was so wrong. I mean, there's definitely, do not condone anything that he did, but I can find a space in my heart to extend love to his soul, that there can be healing for him on the other side of life, and some forgiveness out of this situation, that the people who are affected can come to a greater awareness of community, of love for each other, of healing, so that even though the situation was not good, good can come out of it.
I have a past story that really tells me I learned a great lesson from. My first ministry was in India, and when I went there the year before I was in ministry, I began looking at all the children that were maimed in order to be able to get more money because they were beggars and other things. And I was just so mad at God. This is a holy place. What is this? What is this? You know? And so every night, I was there on business, setting up a manufacturing facility that year. But every night I was journaling. God, how come this? I was like, did you see? You know, it was just really, my heart was just breaking. It was like, wow. And then I listened, and what I heard was from God. You don't know what their souls have asked to learn in this lifetime. You don't know. What you can do is do what you can do now. Leave the rest to me. Leave the rest to me. And it was like, oh, because I was looking at this lifetime and not and what I saw was, great cruelty and more. And so what I'm aware of is that I don't know when we see all these losses and all this rage and all these things that happens. We came in Union Minister, went back there, and then set up schools and different kinds of things for children there, for the ones that were in the hutments and living on the street. So there was, that was what was mine to do, and stop to give up my, I had to give up my anger and rage, but it was compassion is what it was that I developed out of that. So, yeah, so I don't know what I don't know.
And maybe even a little compassion for ourselves in meeting those moments of unknowing. It's like, okay, this exceeds my awareness, my capacity to genuinely accept, but I know that God is in this too. And I'm going to leave that for God to figure out.
Yeah, I think another part of that is what is mine to do. And often mine to do is prayer. Mm-hmm. That's, prayer with others who are also experiencing this. Yeah, I mean, the loss, we've had so many losses this year. And yeah, come to church on Sunday. It's going to be really great. We're going to be dealing with that. So This is really important for us to honor how we feel and to have compassion for ourselves and to do what we can do, and often that is prayer.
Yes. Thank you for sharing about Sunday, because that's all about bringing that grief into the center of our awareness so that we can bring love and healing and light to that.
Yay. Beautiful.
So let's move into our time of prayer as we open to the mystery of life, knowing that there are situations, conditions of life that we may not understand, certainly not the why, maybe not even the how. We become willing to see God in those situations and to offer prayer. So I invite you, if you haven't done so already, to close your eyes, breathe into your heart, let go. Notice what's up for you. Notice if in this dialogue there's a situation that you thought, I can't even see anything good in that. Let's offer that to God in prayer. Let's offer up any people who are on your heart this evening, who you'd like to send a blessing to see experience greater health or prosperity or harmony, greater inner peace. I invite you now to speak those names, situations, and conditions into this sacred space now. We are grateful for the movement of Spirit, the healing power of God already at work in these lives now. Hearts are opening. Connection is revealed. Wellness, wholeness, light, and peace are present. We see them whole, we see them well. We know that they are loved as we are loved. They are light as we are light. They are peace as we are peace. And for this, we say thank you. Thank you, thank you. And so it is. Amen.
So with this, we want to share with you things that are happening here in Houston and beyond. And this Sunday we're talking about, Reverend Michael's going to share with us the beginning of a talk series is about the end of life. This Sunday, blessed are they that mourn. You are invited to come and participate actually in a ritual that we'll be doing at the end of it. It's going to be a very holy, sacred experience. And also on Sunday, our Spanish ministry right here in the pyramid. The lesson is La Facultad del Poder. And that is going to be done by Giovanna Speck at 9:45 here. This Sunday begins Journey Through Grief. I have the opportunity to be able to facilitate that, and that will be for those who have lost a loved one, and it begins at 1:30 on Zoom. You can register at unityofhouston.org. Also, celebrating Word Labyrinth Day, we're having a labyrinth walk. That's going to happen on Saturday, May 1st, 9 to 2. You want to sign up on the website and pick a time slot because everyone will not be, there'll be space between those that are walking. So this will be a COVID-safe experience. Next Wednesday, Reverend Karen is going to bring us the paradox of self. So we'd love to see all of you that are watching us online, or some of you, to go ahead and come here. We are very safe, masked and distanced. You want to RSVP for that event also on the web. And there is something that's being redone because it was so very popular, and that is the contemplative photography class, level 1. Denise Bossart is bringing this to us, and it will be an online experience. It filled up last time so fast, and everyone that took it, did you take it? Yes, you took. Yeah, it was just everyone who has taken it is just so amazed. So there's an opportunity to do this, and it's going to be Saturdays beginning May 8th. So you want to register online soon if you're interested in taking care of and participating in that. So we are blessed by all these events and more.
We are blessed to have you with us tonight. So now as we join together in our metta practice, we are speaking the words of our prayer for the welfare of all being. Let us send deep metta to all those who have been survivors of shootings and their family members and friends. By the power of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they know the sacred joy that arises in the space beyond suffering. May they rest in equanimity that knows no grasping or hatred. May they experience the equality of all beings. May my practice be of benefit to all.
Namaste, namaste, I bow to you. Namaste, 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 go shine your light into the world. Namaste, namaste, the light in me sees a light in you. Namaste, namaste, go shine